Welcome to season 2 of Doomsday Happy Hour. I'm your host, EJ Peters. I thought I'd start by giving you an update on the state of the world in our apartment, especially following my plea last week. You may remember that we were looking for a blue ambulance. Blue ambulance, blue ambulance, blue ambulance. So first of all, good news. At least good news for me. One loyal subscriber found our blue ambulance. Thank you so much. It means I don't have to hide from my son anymore because I can't hear blue ambulance, stay find me blue ambulance anymore. I can now say the word blue out loud again, but I'm not so sure about how it's panned out for the guy in the back. Because as far as I can tell, he's been in need of emergency medical attention for a long time and he's still waiting. Now, as much as I am grateful to this subscriber that I just mentioned who found our blue ambulance, I think I should mention that kind of cuts both ways because he's also the reason we couldn't find it before. You see, when our younger child, our daughter, started crawling and walking, he became concerned that these doors that open might snap off and somehow make their way into her mouth. So he hid it really well. And things were fine for like 5 months until all of a sudden our son starts asking for this blue ambulance non-stop. How bad was it? Well, this is what he sounded like an hour ago when I asked if I could borrow it for 1 minute. Now, mind you, he got 2 new buses yesterday, one of which is an amazing double-decker bus. He's obsessed with these buses, and yet I got when I asked to borrow the blue ambulance for a minute. And it's not like we lacked for other vehicles, not even other emergency vehicles. So thank you for this. And for the fact that I now go to bed and I hear silence, not a toddler's cry as my nighttime lullaby. Thank you. In other news, since I hear that New York City, like many places around the country, is experiencing a blood shortage, I'm planning to donate next Sunday. And in case my real hazmat suit from Amazon doesn't arrive in time, I may end up dusting off the homemade hazmat suit I used in season 1. So just a reminder, remember you need cutouts for your arms, and for your head. I guess I forgot that this was a scented garbage bag. Well, as you know, my top tip also is to try and color coordinate. You know, I'm wearing black and pink. So my face mask, I recommend something like this. And then let's not forget, at a bare minimum, face shield also. Now, for most of you, this might just be what you put on for going outside. For a hypochondriac like myself in the age of COVID, this is just loungewear. So, welcome back again to season 2 of Doomsday Happy Hour, or if you weren't here for season 1, just welcome. It's September, which means it's back to school time. It's Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and it's also Suicide Prevention Month. My first guest of the season is Devorah Asher. She is a career changer, survivor of domestic abuse, and she survived a suicide attempt. She's now a PhD in psychotherapist. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what your background is, but I find Devorah incredibly inspiring, and I hope you'll take some inspiration from her too. So, Devorah Asher, thank you for joining me. I'm so delighted to have you on Doomsday Happy Hour.
Thank you for having me.
So I've heard, stories of grit, that really hit me. They were really inspirational. Yours blew me away. It was whatever I was expecting. It was like exponentially more. And I really think that your story is
one, you start off where you're kind of reaching a point of despair at one point, one that nearly cost you your life. And then you lifted yourself up. It sounds like in stages and in many, many ways, not just, career-wise, but also pretty much in every other way possible. Mm-hmm. And in fact, while this show is focused mainly on transformation regarding and growth regarding, work and career, that's really just the tip of the iceberg, I think, in terms of your story. So by the time you were 20, you were a military wife with 2 young kids in tow. Yeah. You almost died twice. Mm-hmm. Once delivering your first child, who was born at 26 weeks, yes. And once by your own hand. Yes. Not long after that, you had 2 more kids, and then you realized you wanted your life to look different. So while mothering those 4 young kids, and still prioritizing your husband's career, you decided to pursue a career of your own, and this leads you to real estate. Yes. And you achieve a tremendous amount of success and build up a solid financial position focusing on real estate. And then you decide, on top of taking care of your family, on top of working in real estate, you're going to go back to school. So you start enrolling in college classes while your kids are attending school, and you're doing your homework at night after they've gone to bed. The juggling, it blows my mind just there. Then you start to pursue your first graduate degree, and then you suddenly find yourself a single mom of 4 while you're still working towards your master's, and you're basically rebuilding your personal life and your professional life, and then you almost died 2 more times. And for the benefit of our audience, I just want to be clear that when I say almost dying, I don't mean getting very, 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 very sick. I mean literally almost dying. Yes. So maybe it makes sense to start at the beginning and just give the audience a sense of your background.
Well, again, thanks for having me. My background starts in the inner city of Chicago. I went to an all-black school. Early on, it was discovered that, I was gifted. A teacher, Dottie Jane Sawyer was her name. She recognized something about me, so she enrolled me in poetry contest and the spelling bee contest for the state. And I got pretty, high up there in the top percentage. And then she would let me come to her home and spend nights. And we would practice all of these poetry contests. And she would drive me all around the city of Chicago, entering me into all of these contests. So she saw something in me. And I think that was sort of my first glimmer of something different than the inner city. Right. Because my teacher was a white lady, and she lived in the suburbs of Chicago. Okay. So this was my first time seeing, a home, without being an apartment, seeing clean streets. So it just blew me away. And so I'm spending nights with her. She's working with me, entering me into all these contests. She was the only one in the audience because my family wouldn't come. So she was sort of like my stage mom too. Right. So I had that early on. But then also early on, I had, a lot of bullying from kids. And a lot of it had to do with, some of the kids not liking my skin color. I had brown hair of all things, and very bright, fair skin. And that would be the thing that people would go after. They would attack my skin either by trying to scratch my face, walk me home and kick me home all the way home. So I had a, sort of not such a happy interaction in school. So a lot of days I really wish I didn't go to school. But my mom was one of those women who said, well, since I didn't get an education, you're going to get an education. My mom only went to the 7th grade. Her mom was married at 12. My mom got married at 14. She got married, she had 5 children. I think her first was at 16. And then she was divorced. Then I was born from a separate relationship. So all of my siblings are only my half siblings. So early on, I see, for her, education was finish high school.
Right.
Because that's something she didn't accomplish. So college or anything else was not on the radar. It was finish school, finish high school, and get a job and help pay, for where we live type of thing.
Right.
And so, going with that whole thing, I didn't strive for anything but to finish high school if I could,
Right.
But I kept having these forces that were for me. With the state exams, I was in the top 10% in the whole state of Illinois. And that enabled me to pick any school that I wanted to go to. I was able to go to what they call a magnet school for gifted children. And you would have thought that my mom would be like, great, that's
exactly.
You got into a school that none of your siblings got into. But my mom was like, no, you're not going to that school. It's too far. And you're not going to that school, and I'm not going to pay, the bus fare for you to go. And it's the top school in Illinois, completely the top school. And she said no. So I ended up at a school that I don't think I fit in again. So I went through high school, same thing, being bullied, girls fighting me, doing things like that. So high school was so uncomfortable also. So my only goal was finish this and become a mom. Because at this point, I never seen any females really go after any education,
Right.
really in my family. My grandmother died when I was really young. I sort of watched my mom spiral into, a great deep depression. I just sort of looked at it and said, wow, she's not eating, she's not talking to us, she's just dazing. So I saw a very, sort of unhealthy way of grieving. And, it sort of stuck with me. And eventually my mom, sort of, reached out in a spiritual way for help. And my mom got remarried. I was about 10 then. I just decided, at 15 years old, that I didn't know where I really fit into our family, into school.
Right.
And I decided that I just didn't think life was worth living. And so that's where I first encountered my attempt at committing suicide.
So sorry. I'm glad it was unsuccessful.
Yes, I am too. Very much so. Yeah.
God, yeah. So as you mentioned, you grow up an inner city child, and then you're a mom before you're out of your teens.
Yes.
Statistically, the odds of a woman from that demographic going on to achieve a great deal of success, they're pretty low.
Mm-hmm.
And at least initially, you weren't necessarily defying those odds because, you weren't focused on career. You were focused on following your husband. He was in the military, and you were going to go wherever he went. And then also mothering, the young kids you had, 2 by the time you were 20. So then something changed because while you're continuing to be a mom and a wife, you decide that you need something more. And so first of all, some people who decide they want more, they'll wait. They'll wait till their kids are, off in school, if not even older, teenagers, whatever, can fend for themselves a little bit at home, maybe even help with the cooking. You didn't do that. I think you said your youngest of the first 4 kids was 1 when you decided to go to school.
It was actually 6 months.
6 months. Okay. So when you decided to start taking these college classes, so first of all, what changed so much that you knew that you wanted more and that you wanted more now and that you were going to find a way to make it happen now? And then secondly, how did you decide what your first steps were going to be as you embarked on this journey, regarding work, career, education?
Well, from a big family of women, a huge family. My mom is one of 17.
Oh my gosh.
But none of the females, or even a lot of the males,
17?
no one.
I'm sorry, I'm still.
Yes.
Were there any twins in there?
Yes, 1 set of twins.
Oh my gosh, that's, by my count, that's still 16 pregnancies.
Fine. So, but coming from such, big background of women, what I call, very strong women. Most of them did not have, any type of work ethics. Most of them stayed home and raised families. I had one aunt, my mom's next to youngest sister. She worked and she retired after almost 30 years on her job.
Wow.
For Ford Motor Company. And instead of raising her kids in the inner city, she raised them outside of the inner city. They were raised in the suburban area. And I always admired her when I went to her home and saw all of the things they had and everything. So I was like, in my mind, in the back of my mind, I said, it's possible that you can raise a family and still work,
Right.
Just in the back of my mind, because she had so much and her kids went to the best schools and everything. But getting back to my life, being young and then marrying so young, and my husband was 8 years older than me.
Okay.
So you're talking about someone who already sort of experienced life.
Right, because it's not so much, but at that point in your life, it's almost like double, another 50% of your life added on.
Exactly. And so with him, have already had this life, this career going.
Right.
Already, I'm like this young, sort of little flower almost, waiting to sort of bud out, And so he was more like, to me, a father figure, because he was very like, my keys, my house, my this, my that.
Oh, really?
So my.
It's a little bit of patronizing though, too.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't have the confidence, to be honest. And
Right.
I didn't have the self-esteem. I didn't have enough inside of me to say, well, no, it should be ours.
Right.
I'm here raising your children. The house is always sparkling. I'm always cooking. It should be ours. I didn't have that confidence to say, because there was also a lot of, abuse in the relationship. So
I'm sorry.
I'm very cowered down. And so I think that was my biggest driving force, because I said to myself, then how would I ever have anything if every single thing belongs to him, And so that was my first time when I said, I'm going to do something. So I enrolled in real estate classes and I started studying the real estate. I would put the baby down. I was nursing and things like that. I would put her down and I would night, and I would cram the cram courses, everything, so I could pass the real estate exam. Because in my mind, I was thinking, no one in our home and in our family, from my family of origin, no one had successfully owned a home. So
right.
we lived in apartments, and
then, which everybody conceives of as part of, the fundamental part of the American dream.
Yes. So I enrolled in real estate, and I could tell that my ex-husband did not really want me to succeed. So he would do things like turn off the light while I was studying,
Love it.
try to sabotage the studying. But in my mind, I would, just in the closet, I would just say, you're going to do this.
Right.
You are going to do it, and you're going to make it, and you're going to be successful. I kept saying it to myself.
Good for you.
And I passed the exam, and I became a realtor in the state of Virginia. Started working at Century 21. I would get up every morning and put my kids, to school. And the younger one, I worked around her schedule, so when he was—
Because she wasn't yet in school.
She wasn't even one yet. And
okay.
So,
wow.
Okay. So I would wait for him to get off, and then I'll go show a house, or I would go on Sunday to show a house. So I did everything around their schedule, because the oldest was only 8.
Uh-huh.
So 8, so they're all 3 years apart. And so I would do it that way. And then sometimes I would tell the people, I'm going to bring my baby with me to show the house.
I was actually wondering about that, because if he didn't want you to succeed, why was he going to watch the baby?
And so I would do that. I would just bring her with me in the car seat, and they'll be like, oh, sure, just bring her. That sort of set me on my steps towards, sort of independence. And what happened was I just started selling houses really fast. Then I said to myself, how come I can't try to get me a house, you know? Matter of fact, the first house that I got, you know, most people start off in a starter home. That was my case. I didn't have a starter home. I had a home, you know, a very nice. And that was my first time of feeling like accomplishment.
Right.
I made something
concrete. You can put your hands on it. You can touch what you have achieved.
Yes, it was tangible. It was there. It was ours. Our kids were going to experience something that I never got a chance to experience. And it just went from there. And then at the end of that year, I wasn't expecting to be the rookie of the year. So I sold so many houses my very first year without even really thinking that that's what would happen. It just happened that way because I was dedicated. And also, I really believe that even in that field, I wanted to be authentic. I didn't want to try to tell people, oh, this will be perfect for you just so I could close a deal. The word just started spreading. And then I got into that for a good year. And then I said, you know, I want to do more. And I went to the community college, took the little entrance exams, and I started my road to community college and going after my dream of, you know, mental health. And I think it's because of my own struggles with, you know, the depression early on. I wanted to be in a field where I could actually be a part of a solution.
Were you still working at the same time?
Working at the same time.
And mothering the kids and
everything. I just poured everything into, you know, meal preps and waiting for them to go to bed. And I just will hammer it out, papers and, you know, talking to clients, everything, you know. And that's what I would do.
Kudos to you. Wow. So I think you've already hit on this a little bit. Why you know, went into mental health. You know, you mentioned that when you were 15, you know, you felt like you didn't fit in, it sounded like anywhere, you know, not with your siblings, because you didn't have a father in common with them, not with your classmates. So you felt kind of lost and listless. But here you are, you're married, which, you know, some people see as, you know, the thing to strive for. You have a beautiful home in the best neighborhood, which some people would say is the thing to strive for. You got material success. You know, so I think a lot of people these days think that fame or fortune or both, ideally both, are, you know, prove that, you know, you've succeeded and you've achieved. Personally, I don't agree with that. I think that like Kate, Anthony Bourdain, Chris Farley, you know, they show that that's not the be all or end all, right? But what made you decide that, you know, that you were so passionate about being part of the solution that it was worth it to you to push even further? And what made you say also that, you know, I've heard of, you know, 40 or 50-year-olds who go back and start college as freshmen. And, you know, I think it's got to take a lot of initiative because they're the only ones in their classes. No matter how many thousands of people, they're usually just by themselves. But you're doing this with a husband that's not so supportive, 4 little kids, including 1 in diapers, while having a career as well. How do you, what was the drive? Tell me a little bit more about that drive.
And I've realized that I had more to offer. Real estate was great, but I think that it was going to ever allow me to really get to the root of the problem with people and what they're really facing. Because I notice a lot of people put on a smile every day. They smile, they're pretending to be happy. They pretending to, you know, my marriage is great, but really on the inside.
Yes. And by the way, I feel that Facebook really enhances this because you don't show the pictures of the disasters. You only show the pictures of the happy moments.
Exactly. Facebook, social media as a whole, you know, everybody's smiling on the beach and, you know, waving the flag. But I think at the end of the day, a lot of people are so sad inside. And that's what happened. I was so sad. I had moments where I was always crying and just sad. And, you know, and it's like, well, you got this beautiful home. Oh, look, you know, and my family would come and they would say, oh, look at this big old home, you know. And I started thinking, well, okay, now, you know, it's going to be great for me. But it wasn't. I still felt empty inside. And
I was going to say, it sounds so vacuous. Yeah.
I was so empty. I woke up empty, went to sleep empty, and I had all these things, but emptiness, you know, and that was my thing. And I went and took my, You know, at first, you got to understand, first I wanted to be an attorney of all things, because I feel like I'm a good debater. And so
that's why I wanted to be one too.
and so I wanted to be an attorney. And so I took, you know, I started taking community college classes. And so in that phase, you're sort of, you know, just taking your general ed stuff, you know, and I had to take Psychology 101. So I go and take the class, my first time ever laying hands on a psychology book. And I opened up the first chapter and I read the entire 26 chapters of that book, cover to cover. It's like, there's a way that I can actually help not only myself, but other people, you know, actually live and be who they are really meant to be and not be fake and phony.